Page 178 of Three Worlds or Plan of Redemption. Barbour and Russell are discussing the seven churches of Revelation 2 and 3. He's talking here about the church of Ephesus. He says, please note the character Christ gives to himself while addressing the first or apostolic church. He has said that that church of Ephesus represents the church up until the death of the apostles. These things saith he that holdeth the seven stars in his right hand, who walketh in the midst of the seven golden candlesticks. I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience, and how thou canst not bear them that are evil, and hast tried those which say they are apostles, and are not, and hast found them liars. Then compare the account as given by Paul of their labors, the apostles' labors, their patience, their stripes, their power of discerning spirits, etc. But even that, a highly exalted church, at last lost its first love, and God removed their candlestick to the second and lower condition. The power of miracles passed away. If there be prophecy, that is the gift of prophecy, it shall fail. While only faith, hope, and charity abide. We might note that that's Paul in Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 13, writing from Ephesus to the Corinthian church. And by the way, the Ephesus church remained very powerful right into the Middle Ages. 3 of the great councils were held there. So the candlestick was not removed for a long time. Again, notice the character of Christ addressed to the church of Smyrna, upon whom death and persecution and poverty had come, according to verse 9 of chapter 2. I know thy works, and tribulation, and poverty, but thou art rich. Persecution always purifies the true child of God. I know the blasphemy of those which say they are Jews. Not literal Jews, but Israelites indeed. No, he's just plain wrong here. The great majority of commentators think it's a reference to literal Jews in the so-called Synagogue of Satan. The same symbol of Jew and Synagogue of Satan occur again in speaking to the Philadelphia church, and clearly refers to the true and false, those belonging to Christ and those belonging to Antichrist. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. That is, all the churches of that second phase. They were suffering death, but are encouraged that they shall not be hurt of the second death. With the third, or Pergamos church, they have reached the time of Constantine's conversion, when the power of the empire was made subservient to the church, and Christianity could begin to assume the dignity of civil power. And you will notice the character of him who addresses this church. These things saith he which hath the sharp sword with 2 edges. I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. That is, in the seat of the dragon, called the devil and Satan, or in other words, the seat of empire. How perfect and appropriate is this when addressed to the Christian church of that day, that is the days after Constantine made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire. And how meaningless it would be if applied to the little church in the village of Pergamos in Asia, where the dragon or fourth empire never had its seat. That's inaccurate, by the way, too. The reason Pergamos is chosen for special singling out here in Revelation chapters 2 and 3 is that it was a seat of the imperial cult in the first century. So again, Barbour and Russell haven't done their homework. And unto the angel of the church in Thyatira write, this church has to forsake all and flee into the wilderness. These things saith the Son of God, who hath his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet like fine brass. He can follow them in all their desolate wandering, no matter how wild and dreary the mountain passes may be. I know thy works, and charity, and service, and faith, and thy patience, and thy works, and the last to be more than the first. At such a crisis, works, feeding the hungry and clothing the naked, would be a prominent virtue. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman, Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and seduce my servants to commit fornication, and to eat things sacrificed to idols. And I gave her space to repent. That woman Jezebel was clearly the drunken woman from whom they fled. In their great troubles, driven to the mountains with wives and children suffering cold and hunger, many of those who had fled were seduced back by offers of life, property, and position in the earlier days of their flight. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. That is, all the churches of that age. So here he's referring to what we call the Dark Ages, when Christianity, according to that minority narrative, I would have to say, of extreme Protestantism, believes itself to have perished from the earth, except for those who fled into the wilderness of the mountain ranges of Western Europe, etc. Unto the angel of the church of Sardis write, These things saith he that hath the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. To a church almost extinct, but few names left in Sardis, how comforting to feel that he who held all the churches in his hand was their protector. But so long without the light, the Bible hardly ever seen, living almost entirely by tradition and memory of what the Christian church should be, no wonder they were almost spiritually dead. Be watchful and strengthen the things which remain, that are ready to die, for I have not found thy works perfect before God. That's chapter 3, verse 2. And to the angel of the church of Philadelphia write, These things saith he that is holy, that he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth, and no man shutteth, and shutteth, and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. The door of the Reformation was opened, and no man could shut it. The Bible began to be put into the hands of the people, and that woman, Jezebel, could not stop it. And long before the end of that phase of the church, that synagogue of Satan had indeed been compelled to bow at the feet of the Reformation Church. Who does not know that the Reformers, down even to this side of the days of John Wesley, were earnest and devoted servants of God? Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Which of course brings us to the church of Laodicea for the next segment. I'll put in a link to our discussion of the first 3 chapters of Revelation. In the first discussion was 8 jolts for 2 Jehovah's Witnesses. Now there's 3 more jolts for 2 Jehovah's Witnesses, all in chapter 1 of Revelation.